Prices are rising. A recession is looming. And what was Donald Trump doing? Vacationing again in Mar-a-Lago, awarding himself more trophies, posting about it on social media while the American people are suffering. Donald Trump returned to Washington, D.C. on Monday, where he held an unhinged press conference just an hour or so ago in the Oval Office with Kid Rock dressed in a bright red jumpsuit and fedora, further humiliating the White House and the United States of America. Now, in the past 24 hours, Donald Trump said he could not care less about rising prices. He said he will take over Greenland 100%. And he does not rule out using military force against Greenland and Denmark if necessary to take it, because he says it's his. He said he does not even know what Signal is or what Signal chats are or what the whole text thread on Signal thing is all about. And he said he wants to have a third term, and there are ways that he can do it, again, threatening dictatorship. This as he's crashing our markets, crashing our economy. Now, all of this comes as well as we approach some very important elections on Tuesday, a big special elections in Florida, a major Supreme Court race in Wisconsin.
Major Supreme Court race in Wisconsin, major special elections in Florida. You know, sometimes Ben's internet cuts out here on the MeidasTouch Network.
It happens.
But it happens when you're live. It happens, but that's okay. The point is we have a whole lot to speak about on this episode of the MeidasTouch Podcast. It is great to see everybody here today. Kid Rock in the Oval Office. Jordy, did you see that with the outfit? I mean, in the words of everybody, I guess, from a few weeks ago,
empty seat there.
You've even got a suit, Kid Rock. You got a suit when you're in there in the Oval Office? I guess not. It looks like we got Ben back. Ben, welcome back to the show. I'll let you continue your intro.
A federal judge has barred the Trump regime from ending temporary protected status for 350,000 Venezuelan nationals. Another federal judge, Judge Boasberg, set a Thursday hearing to determine if the Trump regime violated his order preventing the regime from kidnapping migrants and sending them to El Salvador without due process. And I was mentioning before that this all comes at the time where there are these important elections, critical elections on Tuesday, the big special elections in Florida, the Supreme Court race in Wisconsin. And I was describing how naturally Elon Musk went to Wisconsin to buy those votes. So we've got a lot to discuss, brothers and Midas Mighty, today.
A lot to discuss, but Ben, Jordy, it's great to be here. It's great to be here, Midas Mighty. Great to always be here speaking to the listeners of the MeidasTouch Podcast, the viewers of the MeidasTouch Podcast. And today we're even trying something a little different too. We are actually also at the same time live on TikTok. I'm live on TikTok. So Hello, TikTok. Hello to the audience. We're trying to reach as many people as possible, try to do new things because this message needs to get out there. We are going up against, let's face it, the oligarchs, right? That's what this movement is going up against right now. The billionaires who just have endless funds, and they are trying to manipulate all of our lives in the worst ways with their money. And we are seeing that in Wisconsin right now. Elon Musk basically running back the same thing that he did during the 2024 election in Wisconsin in the most shameless ways, handing out $1 million checks to people, literally paying people to even attend his event in Wisconsin. We're going to cover that. We're going to try to cover all these races, those special elections. So important. Donald Trump threatening, promising tariffs on everybody in the next 24, 48 hours. He calls it Liberation Day. I think that's going to screw Americans Day. Maybe that screw up the entire world economy day. We're going to see what happens with that. But these next 48 hours, quite frankly, are going to be very consequential as we see all the twists and turns, all the developments that are happening. These are going to affect possibly the next few years, possibly the next few decades, as we see what unfolds in the courts in Florida with tariffs. It's all incredibly consequential. We're going to be covering all of it right here on the MeidasTouch Podcast. Jordy, always a pleasure to see you here. What's new?
Brothers, I'm so stoked. Midas Mighty, I am so stoked. Maple Midas, I am so stoked. Tonight, we're going to do something special, y'all. We're going to have a little bit of fun. It's been a while since we've done this, and it's just, I just love the leadership that Canada is just ruling with right now. They're not backing away, elbows up all the time. It's been a while, brothers and Midas Mighty since we dropped a new emoji in the YouTube for our YouTube members. So we're going to do that tonight. And it's going to be a special nod to our Canadian listeners, a little elbows up emoji. It's pretty sweet. We already created it. We're going to unlock this emoji if we could get 300 memberships tonight on the YouTube. So try and do that. You could gift memberships to people. You could join if you're not. You get access to the whole barrage. As y'all know, we're not funded by outside investors or any billionaire oligarch types. So this is a fun way that we get to keep the good vibes going. So let's unlock that elbows up emoji. We need 300 members and we'll do it. Benji, where are we starting tonight, big bro?
I mean, I guess we start moments ago in the Oval Office. I would say it's one of the most bizarre press conferences I've seen, but with Donald Trump, each one is as bizarre as the last, although I guess it's accelerating here. So while Donald Trump's in the Oval Office, he's got Kid Rock standing next to him wearing this red jumpsuit, a fedora hat. Weren't these MAGA folks lecturing everybody? Zelensky, who's, by the way, dressed as a wartime president, in a war. They were attacking Zelensky. Now you have Kid Rock dressed this way. I'll show you clips of that in a little bit. But Donald Trump then starts talking about the word kind. And the same way Donald Trump is like the word grocery. What an interesting word, grocery. He now does that with the word kind, and he tells this weird story. He says someone called him kind, and he never really heard the word kind before. Really? I kind of believe that he never heard the word kind, but play the clip.
Mr. President, you met with the chairman.
Somebody said that about me the other day. He said, who doesn't know me very well, they said, you're such a kind person. And I said, say that again. They said, you're a kind person. I said, I've never heard that before. It was a weird statement. I was kind.
Who said that?
I've heard of words that, I don't know, I better not tell you. I've been called a lot of things, but it's sort of a different kind of a word. It's like an old-fashioned word, isn't it?
Mr. President, you met with
See
An
it right
old-fashioned
there.
word like groceries.
Very old-fashioned word. Am I back? Is my internet just the worst today on this live?
It's
Is that
the
what
worst.
you-
I think we need a liberation day from Ben's bed.
I
internet
need a
connection.
liberation day for my internet right
And
here.
we're only the
I wanna
number one podcast in the country, but you keep doing you with your internet. I think it's
I'm
part
going
of
to
the
keep
charm.
doing.
I bet I told you, like, upgrade from dial-up. Like, the people aren't using dial-up anymore. Perhaps, cable, something, but you could do your dial-up. It's okay. It's okay.
Well, let me talk to you about the next thing. Donald Trump's asked about what he's referring to as Liberation Day, and they ask him if he's going to move towards a universal tariff or to do individual tariffs on the various countries. And let me show you what he says right here. Here, play this clip.
Are you going to move ahead with a universal tariff or different individual tariff rates on a whole variety of different?
Well, you're going to see in 2 days, which is maybe tomorrow night or probably Wednesday, you're going to see. And they're reciprocal. So whatever they charge us, we charge them, but we're being nicer than they were.
Just even his language there, we're being nicer than they are. And it's not exactly, nothing that he says is reassuring, but he has no answer. Do you even think he knows what it means when they say it's going to be a universal tariff, or will it be individual? And then when he uses the word reciprocal, because the word kind and kindness seems to be very interesting to him. So I'm just genuinely curious if he even knows what those other words mean. And then he talks about, he says, long before Putin, they said you're not going into NATO. And then he spews Putin talking points from the Oval Office. Let me play this for you.
And what happens is we made a deal for rare earth. It was all done. And I heard through you, I haven't spoken to them yet, but through you, I heard that they're now saying, well, I'll only do that deal if we get into NATO or something to that effect. Well, that was never, number one, discussed. Number two, I think it's going to be very long before Putin, they said you're not going into NATO. And it could be, that's probably the reason the war started, actually.
We're hours away from a very special.
That could be the reason the war started, blaming the fact that Russia unlawfully invaded Ukraine on Ukraine wanting to join NATO and, frankly, belonging in NATO. And you notice him attacking Zelensky there, attacking Ukraine, not attacking Putin at all, and then talking about the rare earth mineral deal. Donald, what you promised was on day one, you said there would be peace in Ukraine. You said you got a great relationship with Zelensky, a great relationship with Putin. It would be easy. You said before day one, you would be able to have peace in Ukraine. But instead, you want to do a rare earth mineral deal, which basically just means I don't say even the United States, it means like Trump, for what, his sovereign wealth fund or whatever he wants to create, stealing the rare earth minerals from Ukraine and then carving Ukraine and Europe up for Vladimir Putin. That's what Donald Trump meant by he wanted to do a deal. Let's also talk about what Donald Trump was doing from this horrific Oval Office press conference where he just started telling people to vote for the MAGA Doge Supreme Court candidate in Wisconsin, Brad Schimmel. He's like, you better vote Republican. And he's saying it from the Oval Office, which in any normal times in and of itself would probably be grounds for impeachment. Here, play this clip.
Well, it's a big race, Supreme Court race in Wisconsin. It's taking place essentially as you know, it was early voting, so we'll see what happens. It's a big race. I love Wisconsin. We won Wisconsin. Republicans typically don't do very well in Wisconsin, but I did. I actually won it twice. I actually probably won it 3 times to be exact.
We played their side.
Not probably. I won it 3 times. We had a rigged election the second time, but that's, one of those things. We had to make this one too big to rig. Would you agree with that, Brian?
Yes,
too big
sir.
to rig?
Yes, sir.
So anyway, but yeah, there's a big race, and I hope you get out and vote for the Republican. The woman is a radical left lunatic.
Lying about the results of the 2020 election, saying that it's rigged, saying to vote for a Republican Doge MAGA candidate, all the while he's not answering questions about what's going to happen on April 2nd with tariffs that are likely going to further destroy the economy. You've got the Atlanta Federal Reserve predicting a 2.8% contraction in our economy. You've got stagflation on the horizon, low GDP and surging inflation, and he's whining about the 2020 election being rigged. Oh, and by the way, let me show you this clip where you'll see Kid Rock next to him in the jumpsuit while Donald Trump from the Oval Office is selling Teslas. Play the clip.
So you recently bought a Tesla for White House staff to use, but now there's all these domestic terrorists targeting Teslas. Are the staff scared to drive it?
I don't think so. I haven't heard. They were complaining. I did buy one, and I let the staff use it. We have it parked conveniently, and one day we give it to Margot, one day we give it to Chamberlain, give it to Natalie, we give it to everybody around.
And again, talking about Teslas, the framing of all of that, it's just like, poor Elon, pity Elon. Look, anybody who engages in crimes should be brought to justice. A lot of the protests, though, that are out there, most of those protests, mostly all we see, it's peaceful. Elon Musk, Trump, Doge have destroyed the lives of millions of Americans. They're making veterans suffer. Their hostile takeover of the federal government has been a wrecking ball on people's lives. The way they talk about Social Security as a Ponzi scheme and shut down Social Security Administration office. These people are wrecking balls, destroying lives. And we're going to see on Tuesday what that impact is also going to be during a critical election day. We saw what happened in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where a Senate District 36 in the Pennsylvania State Senate that had not gone blue since 1889 flipped blue there. So we'll see what happens in the special election now in Florida's 6th congressional district, where you have the Democratic candidate Josh Weil running against the MAGA candidate Randy Fine. We'll talk about more about that in a little bit. And then the Supreme Court race in Wisconsin, Judge Susan Crawford, the pro-democracy candidate, running against the MAGA Doge candidate Brad Schimmel. Brett.
Yeah, and I think the messaging is becoming pretty clear around the country right now. It's, do you really want to live in a country where billionaires are allowed to just buy elections in this fashion? I would put this back even before Elon Musk. I would go back to the ruling of Citizens United, which allowed these unlimited campaign contributions. I think every politician out there should be very outspoken against the Citizens United ruling, because it has led to the rot that we see in our country today, the rot that brought Donald Trump to power, the rot that brought Elon Musk into the Oval Office, that allowed him to buy his way into the Oval Office and then use his power to destroy the lives of Americans. And I think one of the things that is like the most, not baffling, because it's just like it goes with everything that Trump would always do and Musk always does, is that despite ruining all these people's lives, despite all the chaos that they have caused, despite throwing our entire country into chaos, what have we seen? That federal spending is actually more now than it ever was, far more than it was under Biden, increasing at greater rates than it was under Biden. So while you see them trying to brag about all these various cuts, first off, I want everybody to know that all these cuts are basically bullshit. Okay. Like when you look at the Doge website and they have all these big numbers, we saved $250 billion here and there. When you actually put them under a tiny bit of a microscope, they're actually all fake. Like it's a fraud. It's a scheme. It's a scam. It's a fraud. Like that's what they're doing right now. And then they try to dangle out things to the American people to try to get them to support it. Have you heard? We might send out Doge checks. Don't you want a Doge check? Yeah, with all the money we're saving from Doge, from taking away your grandmother's Social Security, you might get a few $1,000 in the mail. So you and we even saw people at this Elon Musk event that happened yesterday. We saw people, there was literally somebody who asked a question to Elon Musk. So when are we getting those Doge checks? And he was like, actually, the Doge checks, they got to go to Congress and they, there's a process. And I don't know, you're going to have to ask Congress about that one, because they dangle these things out to scam people. And it's just so incredibly atrocious. It's so manipulative. And we've been saying this on like all of our past episodes, but stop falling for the con people, like as a supporter, if you're a supporter of Elon Musk or Donald Trump, at a certain point, you got to go, these people are lying to me. These people think I'm stupid. And you could either accept the fact that that's what they think of you, or you could actually do your own research, as I'm sure many of you say, and actually look up the facts. Spending is coming in 7.4% higher this year than last year. Higher this year than last year. That's what it's on pace for. And it was not on pace for that under President Biden. I want that to be clear as well. So while you hear about all these cuts and stuff, it's why they also highlight like this, like these very tiny things, like we canceled everybody's Adobe Photoshop subscriptions. I'm like, okay, what are we doing here, people? Like now the people who need to make graphics can't make graphics. Now you canceled Microsoft Word for people, so they can't like open document. Like that's not making the government more efficient. It's making government less efficient. And you're using that as cover to literally steal from people.
And that's exactly what they're doing. They're stealing from the American people. They're also grifting off the American people. That's what Trump and Elon continue to do. I think one of the biggest, misconceptions out there, just because people aren't, loud enough about it. This community is, and I'm proud of that. But it's just this misconception that the Republican Party is for the working class and the Republican Party is for the American taxpayer. That can't be further from the truth. Just because they go on Fox News and spout all these lies and give people scripts and fake talking points to use at their dinner parties doesn't make them true. Here's what we know. America is more chaotic under this Trump regime. Americans are less safe under the Trump regime. These prices are more expensive under the Trump regime than they were under Biden's presidency. And federal spending, as Brett just said, is higher under the Trump regime and the Elon Musk regime than it was under Biden at any point. So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with facts, receipts, and data here. And what we need to do as this pro-democracy community is just remind people of what is happening right in front of everybody's faces. Trump is not for the American taxpayer. Trump is not for the American person or the American citizen. Trump is for Trump and his rich buddies, and he's going to grift off the American people as much as he can until 4 years comes on, and then we'll see if he'll run for his third term that he's trying to throw out there right now. But unbelievable stuff here, and I'm proud of this community for pushing back and bringing those receipts and data points to the table every chance we get.
which would be, by the way, unconstitutional,
absolutely.
unlawful, and a dictatorship. And that's what he wants to set up, and maybe try to use even J.D. Vance as his puppet to help him achieve those ends. But that's why we refer to this presidency as a Ponzi scheme presidency, as a rug pull presidency. They lie, and then they cover up those lies with other lies, and they try to drag it out as far as possible. They said on day one that they were going to make housing affordable, that prices would go down right away. Prices were heading down under former President Biden. Inflation was going to hit the Fed target at 2%. There was going to be more interest rate cuts. Under Donald Trump, prices are going up, up, up. The inflation numbers that came in hot. Under former President Biden, we saw GDP growth. Now we're likely going to see GDP contraction. Trump also promised that on day one, there would be peace in Ukraine in 24 hours. That was a lie. It's lie after lie. So Brett and Jordy, to your point, then they move on to the next one. Hey, everybody, you want to go to Fort Knox? We're going to search for some gold, and maybe that'll be part of the Doge dividend when we find you gold. You want to get rich? By the way, I subscribe to the Trump email list, so you don't have to. Every day he sends his supporters Doge dividend this, Doge dividend that. You want to come to Mar-a-Lago? You want to win a trip so you can have the fancy luxury life that you wanted? You want to go live the lifestyles of the rich and famous? Here's what you need to do. It is BS over and over again. And by the way, at the end of the day, have you heard him say anything without being prompted about the 4 American soldiers presumed dead, who are likely dead in Lithuania, who the secretary of NATO said that those 4 individuals are dead? Have you heard Donald Trump coming out with any statement of sympathy, expressing national mourning, the types of things that you would almost always hear the leader of a country, you would always hear a leader of a country say? So Donald Trump was asked again in the Oval Office about the 4 American soldiers in Lithuania who are dead. And Donald Trump, when he was previously asked last week, didn't even know about it, had no clue what was even being talked about. This time he describes it, that they were driving a heavy truck like a toy. He says like a toy. Listen to him try to describe it. And he doesn't express sympathy. He doesn't express that this is a tragedy. He's incapable of it as well. Watch this.
Mr. President, have you had any updates on the U.S. soldiers missing in Lithuania?
I have.
Can you give us an update?
So 3 are no longer with us, and 1 is unfortunately probably in the same category, but they haven't declared that yet. It was a very heavy truck, like a toy, but I mean, really heavy, that lifted the heaviest equipment. And it would seem that the bank of the lake collapsed. You know, the weight is so big. And it was at night, and it was very cold weather, ice, a lot of ice. And it's possibly slipped, and the weight is so enormous of this thing. It's a massively heavy vehicle. And if they slipped a little bit, it's probably what happened, and it flipped. And 3 are gone, and 1 is missing.
That's your description of what went down? That's your
By the way, if you're wondering, like, did he give sympathy to the families? Did he show any sort of heart or care at all that these soldiers died? The answer is no. The answer is no. That was it. And it's just so appalling to me. And you know damn well, if any situation like this happened during the Biden administration, that they would try to make this a huge, massive controversy. They would attack President Biden for it. And that would even be if President Biden did what he would do in this situation, which is take responsibility, send his regards to the families, handle this through proper military protocols, actually be honest with the American people, actually be briefed on this in the first place, and not have to be told and say, I don't know anything about this. And then a week later come out with I don't even call that a statement, but just whatever the heck that was that we just watched. Just such a disgrace, honestly, just such a disgrace.
And he had to be prompted. He didn't bring it up on his own. All weekend posting about his golf tournaments that he claims he wins, like Kim Jong-un style. I won another tournament. I won another tournament. Look, I'm playing golf here. while American people suffer. It's that simple to me, that as American people suffer, that's what this Trump regime is doing. They're not just causing the suffering, they're gloating about it. We've got a lot more to discuss. I want to talk about these big elections on Tuesday. I want to talk about some of these court rulings in federal court. We've got a big audience today here live once again. I want to remind everybody here to subscribe right now to our YouTube channel. By the way, it's free to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also, we are giving these elbows up emojis that we're going to be releasing. If we can get 300 YouTube members, we don't have outside investors, so it helps this network grow. We're actually almost there already. We'll see if we get there during our first break. But that elbows up emoji's a great one. It's us being in solidarity with Canada, who's leading the way, I think, in the resistance internationally against the United States. We'll talk about that as well when we come back, how their boycott of all things American is impacting America's tourism industry, and they're not buying American goods at a significant scale that's causing real issues to the American economy. We'll take our first quick break of the show. We'll be back with a lot more MeidasTouch Podcast. So since my daughter was born a few months back, I've been really focused on my fitness and doing what I can to stay healthy. And so I recently discovered Armra Colostrum. And it's been a way I strengthen my immunity and gut health, and it's been great. Armra Colostrum can help you optimize your whole body microbiome, strengthen your immune barriers along the mouth, sinuses, gut, urinary, and reproductive tract, and guard against unwelcome particles for your strongest immune health. Armra Colostrum can help combat bloating. It helps you feel lighter. Probiotics are touted as a gut health solution, but they only address one part of the 4-part gut wall. And most products on the market are dead before they even reach your gut. It's a secret. Armra Colostrum naturally fortifies your entire gut wall system, optimizing your microbiome, strengthening the gut wall architecture, which guards against irritants that can trigger symptoms like bloating and constipation. And if you work out regularly, as we all should, colostrum has been shown in research to help enhance nutrient absorption, promote lean muscle building, and improve endurance while fueling cellular repair, regeneration, and faster recovery. As a husband and a dad, I want to make sure as I age, my body stays in good health. And I've made Armra a daily part of my routine. I hope you do as well. We've worked out a special offer for our audience, thanks to Jordy. Receive 15% off your first order. Go to tryarmra.com/Meidas or enter Meidas to get 15% off your first order. One more time, you go to tryarmra.com/Meidas. That's tryarmra.com/Meidas or enter Meidas, MEIDAS, to get 15% off.
All right, let's talk about spring cleaning, but not the boring kind. I'm talking about leveling up your kitchen game and finally tossing that scratched up, sad excuse for a pan you've been clinging to since college. Because once I got my hands on Hexclad, I knew that there was no going back. You guys know I take my cooking seriously. This stuff is like if a cast iron skillet and a spaceship had a baby. You get the durability of stainless steel, the non-stick magic of modern cookware, and it just looks sexy. No more scraping burnt food like it's the 90s, just perfect sears, effortless cleanup, and straight into the dishwasher. You cannot beat it. And let's not forget their Japanese Damascus steel knives. These things are works of art. 67 layers of razor-sharp, premium Japanese steel that make prep work effortless. You feel like a pro just holding one. Oh, and the best part, Hexclad comes with a lifetime warranty. That's right. Buy it once and you are set for life. So stop paying delivery fees and start cooking like a pro. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off with our exclusive link. Just head to hexclad.com/Meidas. That's HEXCLAD.com/Meidas, MEIDAS. Let them know we sent you. Bon appetit. Let's eat with Hexclad's revolutionary cookware.
Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both YouTube and audio. They're fabulous sponsors. Use the links, use the codes. If there's any exit surveys, let them know we sent you. And brothers, Meidas Mighty, Maple Mighty, Maple Meidas, I think we hit it. We hit the 300 membership goal already. Y'all are the freaking best.
That has to be a new record. That's got to be a new record.
Elbows up emoji. This is so cool. Yeah, thank you guys. They're just simply the best. And as Ben said, Canada is leading the way. So this is awesome now that it's in our arsenal that we could just throw up elbows up. Brett, you want to drop it from the Meidas account so folks could see it?
Oh, it's dropped.
I love it. Benji, where to next?
Look, there's a ghoulishness to this Trump regime and to the MAGA Republicans. It is such a stain on our history. I mean, you see them posting on the official GOP accounts things like this from the House Foreign Affairs Committee. This is an official Republican account, and it is a photo of Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and J.D. Vance holding a casket and dancing while holding it. And then the casket has U.S. aid on it as they're mocking destroying a program where many experts believe will literally lead to millions of deaths. It was a major part of the soft power of the United States as the leader, the once leader of the free world, to help people who were starving in other countries and people with deadly illnesses. And as a result of the U.S. pulling out of its U.S. aid and destroying and dismantling it, like there could be quite literally millions of people dying. And they're posting just this ghoulish dancing. And by the way, this is like a theme with them. There's one that Elon Musk did with the Department of Education, right? Where they were at a cemetery and Donald Trump, and it's like a photo of Donald Trump like laughing at a grave, and it says Department of Education, and like department is spelled wrong.
Because Ben, it's their whole thing is just own the libs, right? They don't actually have any like tangible like things that they want to do to help the American people. It's all destroy. It's all just try to ruin people's lives. Like they have no vision for the future. And I think that's something that people need to hone in on a little more. They have zero vision for actually what they want to do. They just know that they want to tear it all down. And the more they piss off the libs, the more they make people angry, the happier they are, which is why they live in this meme culture where they post disgusting memes like that. And they just try to antagonize you, right? That's like their whole thing. And this is why also like I try to say like, it's okay to laugh at things. It's okay to lead with humor. It's okay to be able to step aside and live your life and be with your family, because what these authoritarians want is they want to wear you down. They want you to feel like crap. They want you to feel hopeless. And when you laugh at them, when you mock them, when you actually are enjoying yourself, that's actually one of the biggest kind of weapons that could possibly be used against them. And so don't let them take your joy at all costs. Never let them take that part of you.
So we did not see this weekend the Trump regime's sham wow guy, Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary. When I was growing up, I would be forced to watch those infomercials when I was watching news with the sham wow guy. It's a shammy. It's a wow. Blah, blah, blah.
I think when you say that, Ben, you have to say no offense to the sham wow guy. Like
but I got to say, I think there can be offense to the sham wow guy.
Offense to the sham wow guy.
Apparently, he wasn't exactly a great guy.
Okay,
yeah, so yeah, we looked into it. There could be offense to him.
Got it. Okay, I wasn't up to date on my ShamWow person history.
You got to be up to date on the references that I throw out here.
There's a story, Jordy, and you could Google it, and you're gonna go, holy shit.
Okay.
We did this routine 3 weeks ago.
I'm gonna Google it right now.
This was a stick that we've developed now, over the course of many weeks. Anyway, Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, he was the one who was going on and going, everybody, that we're all gonna get rich. You're gonna get rich. You're gonna get rich. You're gonna get rich because tariffs are great. All right. Well, now Donald Trump saying that his Liberation Day is going to happen on April 2nd, where he's going to tariff every single country, which every economist worth anything is saying is going to cause a massive recession or worse. So naturally, right, the news networks were inviting Howard Lutnick back. Hey, Howard, you were the one kind of selling this thing. So let's hear from you. What is going to, the business community wants some certainty, Howard. So what's going to happen? So on Face the Nation, they invited Howard Lutnick, and let's take a look at what happened. Let's play it.
We had hoped to speak to Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick today, but the White House declined our request. We do hope to have him on in the near future to discuss tariffs. Our folks.
Oh, too busy? Too busy now, Howard?
It's like,
Seriously? So then they call on Peter Navarro, one of Donald Trump's top economic advisors, straight out of jail, basically, right? For contempt of Congress that he served a few months back. He's the one who had like the, what they call it, the Green Bay
sweep. And then he Green Bay sweeped himself on off to a federal prison
election and overturn a free and fair election. Anyway, he's the guy now who's out there talking about tariffs. And let's just take a look at what his message to the American people is. This was the message that they were beaming on state regime media known as Fox. Let's play it.
You heard Lucas's reporting there where the president says he doesn't care if the prices go up on U.S. cars. So what's the message to the U.S. consumer?
The message is that tariffs are tax cuts, tariffs are jobs, tariffs are national security, tariffs are great for America, tariffs will make America great again.
They doing haikus? I mean, what they're doing disinfo haikus, right? I mean, what haiku? Are they doing C-Spot run crash economy books? C-Spot run, C-Spot this tariffs. You know how this is what I mean. It's a Ponzi scheme regime, right? It's a rug pull regime. So you know how we said we were going to do no tax on tips? You know how we said we were going to do no tax on Social Security? Remember when we said no tax on overtime? Promises made, promises kept. You get tariffs now, which are the tax cuts. Ergo, mission accomplished, mic drop. We did everything we said we were going to do. And that's actually what, like, I'm not exact. That's what they're saying.
I want to be clear too, like a tariff literally is a tax. Okay. It's literally a tax on imports. So if you are saying a tariff is a tax cut, that is saying up is down. That is saying left is right. It is just saying the complete opposite of reality. And that's always been the thing that's really frustrated me the most about this entire MAGA movement is it's built on a house of cards of bullshit from top to bottom. It's just all lies. Everything is lies. And that's why it's so important to these people to control the flow of information. Quite frankly, it's why they've been so outraged over the success of the MeidasTouch podcast and the way we've been able to break through, because they have spent billions and billions and billions of dollars in order to make it so that their lies get more reach than the actual truth. Heck, it's why Elon Musk paid $44 billion for Twitter only to ruin the app, tank the app, because his main strategy was, I don't care if I make money off this thing. I just want to use it as a propaganda machine. They just live in this lie echo chamber all the time. And quite frankly, this movement would not exist if they did not have that sort of control over the flow of info.
And there's Navarro even. The script for MAGA is just getting so ridiculous at this point. They have so far jumped the shark that even when they go on Fox News, their main propaganda outlet, to get these talking points out there to their viewers and their loyal following, even they are just scratching their heads at this point. And maybe not all of them, maybe not even most of them, but trust me, some are here. You know why? Because tariffs are tax cuts. Tariffs are jobs. I mean, I'm just imagining the Fox viewers sitting there and some of them, shaking their, yeah. And then others just kind of coming to the realization like, wait a second, this is ridiculous, like beyond the pale.
To your point, Charlie, you know what I've seen though? Like, because there are people in specific communities that wake up to certain things, right? Yeah. It affects different people in different ways. And there were folks who, and I don't know why you would think the guy who's been bankrupt so many times is going to be good for the economy. I don't know how people keep falling for this crap every single time, which is so obviously bullshit. But they do. And they go, he's going to be great for the economy. Then the next thing they know, they're looking at their 401ks, they're looking at their stocks. Heck, the Bitcoin, the crypto people are looking at their crypto accounts and they are saying, oh my God, I am getting destroyed, only to wake up the next day and hear we're going to tariff this, we're going to tariff that, we're going to tariff anybody, pulling them back, putting them back in. This uncertainty is not what the business community likes. And it's not what anybody wants to see. People don't want to wake up, check their accounts, see that they've lost a ton of money. They don't want to wake up and see that their life savings is gone. They don't want to try to call the Social Security office and all of a sudden a phone call that may have taken 20 minutes now takes hours and hours for them to even get through. And that's what Americans are waking up to. So you could bullshit all you want and you could spread this propaganda, you could spread this lies like Donald Donald Trump does. But ultimately, you reach a sort of delta where reality meets your lies. And you can't escape that. The Trump administration had that same issue during their first term where they lied. Then COVID happened. They thought they could lie. And then guess what? The lies couldn't lies could not counteract what was happening with COVID, the massive death toll, Donald Trump saying it's going to disappear when it exploded, Donald Trump ignoring all the advice on experts. And we're going to see that in a bunch of different sort of little ways throughout this Trump administration, whether it's with the Signalgate lies or the lies about tariffs, the lies about the stock market, the lies about lower prices, because reality is always going to be there right behind them, catching up.
Look, Donald Trump may actually have, if this were to be a category, the Guinness Book of Records for the most bankruptcies. I mean, if you go back through his history, the casinos that he bankrupted, the businesses that he crashed over and over again. By the way, we've showed this in some of our videos. Just look at his filings with the Securities and Exchange Commission in connection with his Trump media stock, because he has to file this. You have to list your bankruptcies. So they're listed there in a section about bankruptcies and business failures. It's one after another. And it's because when things go bad, his pathology as a malignant narcissist is to either be like, I don't know, I don't care, to blame others, or to then, or all combined, to double or triple down on the things that are going wrong to make it worse. Because as a malignant narcissist, his pathology doesn't let him step back and go, whoa, we need to change the strategy. So look, you one bankruptcy, okay, but over and over again, what does it tell you? He doubles and triples down on the failure, and he finds the failure the way like an arrow finds its bullseye from like an Olympic archer. He finds failure. He sails directly and he swoops into failure over and over again because that's his demented pathology. But, you know, there are people who know that who are in power, who know that what he's doing is going to cause massive damage. I mean, there's people like MAGA Republican James Lankford from Oklahoma, who would be one of the people who would always tell you in normal times how bad tariffs are, how it will cause depression. He knows, but he goes on the media networks and he goes, you know what this is like? You know, like when you get your kitchen remodeled, it's like a kitchen Hey, Lankford. No, a lot of people don't know. You know why? Because they can't afford houses. So they don't even know what that's like to remodel a kitchen. And y'all promised that you would make housing affordable on day one. So let's start with that premise. And it's not like remodeling a kitchen. It's like you're destroying people's lives and cruelly toying with their lifestyles and just their day-to-day existence. That's what it's like. But here's Lankford on the weekend shows trying to normalize this behavior by analogizing to a kitchen remodel. Play this clip.
Long term, I feel like in some ways in the economy, this is kind of like a kitchen remodel or a bath remodel. There's a bit of a mess at the beginning, but everybody has a long-term look of where we're headed. It's going to be noisy for a little while, but we all know where we're headed, trying to reduce the prices for Americans and increase jobs.
Well, on that note, in your book that I mentioned, you write that Americans voted for Donald Trump because they, quote, decided the nation needed a turnaround election. In this past week, inflation ticked back up. Stocks went down again. Americans are increasingly pessimistic about the economy, worried about a recession. It's harder to find a job. Is Trump failing to deliver on the kind of turnaround Americans were hoping for that you write about?
We are less than 3 months into the administration at this point, so I think we've got a ways to go to be able to determine anything related to that. This is the first
rug pull Ponzi scheme. Will come up with the next lie over and over again. The language they use, it's going to be noisy. It's going to be messy. When the economy was growing under former President Biden, right? Remember when you would have those Fox alerts, job growth, A new record high. The stock market hit a new record. Remember all of that? Unemployment, record low. We're energy independent. And they would try to spin it as though it was bad. Remember, they would be upset.
Oh, they would toss the good low, right?
Data.
After that.
You'd get the good data, and then they would be like, well, the economy is doing great again. But it could be doing much better if we turbocharge it with people like Donald Trump. Remember, they would sell you that pile of crap, and they would show you Donald Trump go, I'm going, blah, 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 blah. Remember, they would do that. And so now they're like, I saw this on another show on Fox, 5%, 10%. That's not that bad that the markets are down 550. That's not like 50%. What are you talking about? People are looking at their life savings and their 401ks and their retirements and seeing it crashing. They're seeing Howard Lutnick go on these podcasts by these other like billionaires. Lutnick's a billionaire, the Commerce Secretary. And he's like, my 94-year-old mother-in-law, she would never complain if the Social Security check doesn't come in. And, the people who complain about not doing their Social Security, they're doing the fraud. You know that, right? They're the fraudsters. Here, watch this.
Let's say Social Security didn't send out their checks this month. My mother-in-law, who's 94, she wouldn't call and complain. She just wouldn't. She'd think something got messed up, and she'll get it next month.
Yeah.
A fraudster always makes the loudest noise, screaming, yelling, and complaining.
They're literally describing the Trump regime. The fraudster always. And then he's doing the weird thing with why do you need to do the field goal polls when explaining about how you're 94-year-old?
Because they're freaks, and you're allowed to say that. Everybody, you can. They're weird. They're freaks, and you could say that and not feel bad about it because, frankly, they are. You have Langford. This is how they're just so out of touch too. Really, they have no pulse on the American citizen. Langford's up there talking about casual kitchen and bathroom remodelings, that's super relatable for everybody, and then you have Lutnick up there talking about his 94-year-old Social Security, his grandmother.
Jordy, Lutnick looks like the fraudster, the bad guy from the financial fraud movies. He looks like he's out of Central Casting, right? And it looks like he rehearsed this line in front of the mirror.
They're cartoonish villains, Ben, and it would be funny if it wasn't so detrimental to the American person. It's unbelievable.
The fraudster yells the loudest. It's like he rehearses that. Look, when we get back, I want to talk about these special elections in Florida. I want to talk about the election in Wisconsin for the Supreme Court seat there. There's an empty seat that's going to determine control of the Supreme Court, what Elon Musk was doing in Green Bay. I want to talk about some federal court rulings that went against Donald Trump. And they're, they are going after the federal judges. I think it was MAGA Republican Congress member Andy Ogles posted a wanted sign today with the judges' faces going after the federal judges in the halls of Congress. A wanted sign? Are you kidding me? Are you seriously? Horrific behavior. We'll talk about that and more after we get back from our last quick break of the show.
My cat is part of the family, plain and simple. So I want them to have the best food that money can buy. And I didn't realize that for years, the cat food that I was buying had questionable ingredients. This podcast is sponsored by Smalls. Now, if you're a listener of the show, you know that my cat cannot live without Smalls. To get 50% off your first order plus free shipping, head to smalls.com and use promo code Meidas. Smalls cat food is protein-packed recipes made with preservative-free ingredients that you'd find in your fridge, and it's delivered right to your door. That's why Cats.com named Smalls their best overall cat food. My cat's favorite flavor is smooth fish, and my cats prefer Smalls way more than their previous cat food. I legitimately did a taste test, put two bowls side by side, and they immediately went to Smalls. Since making the switch to smalls, my cat has had fewer hairballs, more balanced energy, a healthier weight, a softer and shinier fur coat, and a less stinky litter box that's big. Still not a believer in smalls? Well, New York Magazine called smalls the best cat food, according to veterinarians, while BuzzFeed said, my cats went completely ballistic for this stuff. My cat's breath is much better, and their fur is much softer ever since I switched to smalls. Smalls also has a bunch of amazing treats and snacks that you can add to your order. And after switching to smalls, 88% of cat owners reported overall health improvements. That's a big deal. Do you have a picky cat? Well, Smalls has a sampler so that your cat can try everything Smalls has to offer. And the team at Smalls is so confident that your cat will love their product that you can try it risk-free. That means they will refund you if your cat won't eat their food. What are you waiting for? Give your cat the food they deserve. Head to smalls.com and use promo code MEIDAS, M-E-I-D-A-S, at checkout for 50% off your first order plus free shipping. That's the best offer that you'll find, but you have to use my code MEIDAS for 50% off your first order. One last time, that's promo code MEIDAS for 50% off your first order plus free shipping. Anywhere worth going is worth going in good boots. Find your perfect pair with Tecovas. Ever wondered if you can pull off boots with your personal style? Well, you owe it to your feet to pull on a pair of Tecovas. Being confident isn't about being different. It's about being yourself. Find comfort in the traditions of the West and confidence for making it your own. Honor the West by leaving your own boot print. Tecovas crafts quality Western boots for everyone, from generational ranchers and lifelong cowboys to first-time boot buyers. Every one of Tecovas' boots are handcrafted with over 200 meticulous steps for broken-in comfort right out of the box. Whether it's a long day or a big night, your Tecovas are built to last and impress. There's no compromise between quality and style. Look, I can't even begin to tell you just how comfortable my Tecovas are. And I'll admit it, I was a little skeptical at first, but these Tecovas are something special. Plus, with Tecovas Best in the West guarantee, you get free returns and exchanges for 30 days. Right now, get 10% off at tecovas.com/Meidas when you sign up for email and text. That's 10% off at tecovas.com/Meidas. Tecovas.com/Meidas. See site for details. Tecovas, point your toes west. Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of audio and the YouTube. Click the links, use the codes, let them know we sent you. And guys, guess what? I'm still wearing them. Still wearing them. Wearing them. Absolutely.
Those are
What
fresh.
you doing with you're not wearing
Are
pants?
you wearing pants though?
I'm doing the shorts.
For the audio listeners, Jordy's not wearing pants. Like I guess he thought he could fool everybody. He didn't realize no
like your
pants.
skinny legs on camera. You may want to.
It's the shorts and
You may want to.
That's the style these days, brothers. Y'all don't know. You're not hip. I'm the youngest one. You guys
Jordy,
don't.
I recommend before you do a leg shot, and stand up on camera.
I want to show off my legs. What if today was leg day? I want to show off my legs.
I'm just happy you're wearing boxers, quite frankly. But the boots look great.
You know how Howard Lutnick practiced that line for bad?
Yes.
You can practice for good. And
Also,
you can.
I Googled the Sham Wow guy and wow. Yeah. Benji, where to next?
I told you, I got called out for it and I changed course, Jay. Anyway, let me show you though who is, I think, leading a new course for how Democrats fight. It's Josh Weil, the Democratic candidate for Florida's 6th congressional district. There are special elections in Florida. There's the Supreme Court election in Wisconsin. It's a strange concept for some people. You're like, why is there's a race for Supreme Court? That's not in the federal court system. The president appoints and the Senate confirms for federal judges. State court judges, there's elections. I mean, at first a governor appoints, but then after there's a term, there's often elections that take place. And so that's why you have a Supreme Court election. And it's so interesting too, because then you have these like judges who are not really used to campaigning. They kind of have to campaign and it's like a little bit awkward, you know what I mean? And so like normally the judges who campaign, you know, they're not going to try to get too political, right? They talk about law and order, and we're here to, just make sure the law is upheld. And that's what Judge Susan Crawford, the pro-democracy judge, is doing. Then you've got this guy like Brad Schimmel, the MAGA Doge candidate, who literally dressed up like Donald Trump for Halloween. And you've got like Elon Musk going into Wisconsin saying, all right, if you take photos by the voting locations, but you can't be you have to be at least 100 feet away, I'm going to give you $20. Then if you do a photo of a friend, like, I'll give you $100. And then if you enter into the raffle, I'll give you $1 million. Like, it's the most ridiculous thing imaginable. And we had the opportunity to speak to the Democratic chair, Ben Wickler, who talked about what was going on there. He said, in his opinion, that what was taking place is criminal. The AG is investigating it as well in Wisconsin. And I guess the cruel irony, too, is that scheme, a pay-for-vote scheme, involves literally running for the Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin. And this is just what they're going to do over and over again, these MAGA Doge people, because they think that's their way to win. They got to buy votes and bribe people to vote. And
by the way, Ben, the end justifies the means, I think, to them in this as well, right? Because all they care about is raw, unadulterated power. They want to get it at all costs. They don't care about doing these schemes in order to get it. And so even with Elon's schemes surrounding the general election, right? His gamble was, if this works, I may have committed potentially some crimes here by buying votes, essentially. But I won't be prosecuted under a Trump administration. And by the way, all the other violations all my companies are committing, all the investigations that are going on into my companies, those will go away as well. So Elon made that calculation there. I think he's making the same calculation here in Wisconsin. And I think the people need to show up. I think a message that we've seen resonating throughout the country over these past special elections that we've seen, like the ones in Pennsylvania, that nobody ever thought Democrats would win at any chance. But the candidates there, they ran on an explicitly anti-oligarch, anti-Elon Musk platform. And I think that's been proving, at least at this point, to be an effective, to be a potent message out there. Because guess what? I don't think people like having their votes bought off by billionaires. I don't think they like billionaires coming on in from the outside their state to tell them what to do, because it's going to help the billionaires and screw over the people. And I think finally folks are waking up to this, and especially in these midterm elections, when you see folks who are the people who are showing up to these elections are people who vote the most, who also tend to lean Democratic in these races. I think you're seeing an extra urgency right now, more organizing in order to make sure that people get out the vote, to tell Elon Musk, to tell Donald Trump, to tell all the oligarchs, absolutely not. We will not let you do this.
It's a vibe shift for sure. And I think everyone's feeling that right now, because the more, frankly, this reminds me of when, when DeSantis was running, and the more he got in front of people, like the less people liked him. This is happening on a 10x, 100x scale with Elon Musk and Trump right now. The more they're in the media, the more they're in people's faces, the American citizen is just constantly reminded just how awful these people are.
It's impacting all Americans badly who are not billionaires, which is mostly all Americans.
Yes.
And whether you're a veteran, whether you have a veteran in your family, you're seeing cuts to the VA, you're seeing cuts to your services, cuts to the crisis hotline. You're seeing veterans get fired and then be defamed and told it's for performance reasons and that veterans don't deserve these jobs. Federal workers aren't just in Washington, D.C., so it's horrific that federal workers in D.C. are being treated horribly. But in all states and varied cities across the country, there are offices where federal workers show up every day, hardworking people who are also being cruelly terminated and defamed and being told it's because of performance reasons, which also hurts their ability to get unemployment benefits as well. People are seeing that their Medicaid could be completely gutted and eliminated. People see what we showed you earlier, Howard Lutnick basically saying, if you complain that you don't get your Social Security check, you're the fraudster, you're the criminal that they say is causing fraud in Social Security, which of course you're not. But that's what they're saying to try to take away Social Security from it. They're already taking it away. They're shutting down 47 Social Security Administration offices. So if you're on Social Security, you're seeing that it's harder to get in touch with people and that your local Social Security office is probably shut down. You're seeing it under former President Biden. You know what you were seeing? Infrastructure projects going up, things being built, an actual builder, right? With Trump, who claims to be a builder, what you're seeing is what he did his whole life, which is to be a destroyer. He rips things down and he does it cruelly, and then he blames. That's what he does. This is impacting everyone. And I think what Trump underestimated is the resistance and opposition here in the United States and abroad. Whether you're talking about in Asia, where you have alliances like Japan, South Korea, and China joining forces, unheard of, joining forces to respond to the tariffs. Together, you're seeing new European defense alliances form, Europe coming to the defense of President Zelensky and standing up to Trump. And of course, elbows up, you're seeing Canada lead the way as well. And Canada boycotting all things American, boycotting American tourism. Y'all remember when some in the media were saying, we think this may be a 10% boycott, which would cause still like massive amounts of down. I said, let me tell you about the Maple Midas. Okay, let me tell you what's really going on in Canada right now. I said, I think the tourism boycott will be like 85%. And that's more in the range of where it's at. So you're seeing like tourism, you know, even at a micro level, you're seeing like in certain locations, like in Vegas, right? Vegas significantly down because Canadians aren't traveling there. Then you're seeing this in cities across the country. Then in the aggregate, you're seeing flights being canceled. The airline industry right now in the United States is absolutely plummeting. By the way, the European markets are, for the first time in a long time, doing better, by the way, than the United States, as they're all forming alliances with each other and other countries, isolating the United States. So that's what's actually happening on the ground here. I mean, take a look at this. While the U.S. spirals into a Trump-induced chaos, European equity markets are now outperforming U.S. markets by a record margin, not even close, by a record margin. Like,
Ben, do you remember all the headlines that we would wake up to during the Biden administration where it would be like, U.S. leads the world in GDP growth, you know, post-COVID recovery. U.S. leads the world in employment. U.S. leads the world in this, leads the world in that. U.S. beating China for the first time in 50 years. These were the stories we would wake up to every day under the Biden administration. Then Fox would tell us why it was all horrible. Now the stories we wake up to are this. We wake up to that the European markets are way ahead of us. We're waking up to that there are these alliances forming, that China is now the world leader, and they are actually being quite smart because they're going out to people who have previously been like not their friends and are going, hey, let's get together. We got to get against this guy. They're even going to Europe and they're going, we could figure out some trade stuff between us. We don't need the United States anymore. You have the Canadians boycotting the US, and shout out to the Canadians. You know, we are in full solidarity with all you and everybody who Donald Trump keeps coming after. I mean, it's a disgrace to us. And then he has the nerve to, in these conversations with the press, you see Donald Trump often go, we are now more respected than we've ever been. We're the most respected nation now. It's completely different. And it's actually, no, we're actually the opposite. Okay, we're a freaking clown show. Everybody thinks that we are, it's just completely embarrassing. Everybody thinks we look like fools. And it's just, the whole thing is embarrassing, quite frankly.
Trump, the great unifier. Yeah, he's unifying everybody against the United States. Way to go, Trump. Way to go, buddy.
Okay, I was talking about, great point, Jordy. Someone in our group chat while we're live showed me that photo of your leg, Jordy. You may want to reevaluate that. Anyway, Josh Weil, the Democratic candidate for Florida's 6th congressional district, he's out with some ads that don't pull any punches, you know, and this reminds me of like the earliest Midas days too, like where it was like, just go, like just don't mince words, just say it, just go out there. And, you know, you don't need to hold back where you have Doge and Musk and this wrecking ball. Take a look at the ad that Josh Weil, who's running for Florida's 6th congressional seat which is now open because Mike Walls, the national security advisor who leaked all of the classified information in that Signal group thread and then invited into the chat Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic. Oh, do not do that. Is he doing it again? Oh, that's the photo. I thought he was doing it again. I thought you were doing it again.
I was in the chat. I didn't see what Brett did, but I'm assuming he brought up the photo. It was probably my excellent, again, leg day today. Yeah, I'm proud of those calves. That's some good branding right there. Tecovas is getting some love tonight.
Let me show you the Josh Weil ad.
I'm Josh Weil, and I approve this message.
Randy Fine, a violent, corrupt politician, so radical and dangerous, he supports the effort to cut $880 billion for Medicaid, devastating disabled children and those in nursing homes. Fine is so unhinged and anti-American, he supports the idea that Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. He wants to cut $700 billion, stealing from your retirement. Randy Fine, unhinged, un-American.
Pull up the photo, Brett, of the Donald Trump, J.D. Vance. No, not that photo. The photo, not that photo. The photo. This is where we get immature, Brett. The photo with the casket, which is what the MAGA Republicans are posting on their Foreign Affairs Committee. I mean, so I don't know how else you can describe what these MAGAs are doing and what Doge is doing, other than how Josh Weil is like describing it, right? Like this is real, what we're showing you right there, that this is the MAGA Republican House Foreign Affairs Committee, right? This is supposed to be serious stuff. And that is what they're posting right there. I'll share this with you as well. This is from Judge Crawford in Wisconsin. And here's how she describes Brad Schimmel, the MAGA Republican Doge candidate, in the ad that she just had to come out here. Play this clip.
It was just a one-time thing. That's what Brad Schimmel said when he gave a, quote, sweet bargain to a man who sexually assaulted a 10-year-old girl. The sex predator served just 18 months in prison for his crime and got out. A few weeks ago, he was convicted of sexually assaulting a child again. And that was just one time Brad Schimmel let a sex predator loose on our kids. So why would we ever give him another chance? Brad Schimmel, too extreme for the Supreme Court.
Also, you should know that Brad Schimmel, as I mentioned earlier, dressed up as Donald Trump for Halloween. He would go to those Trump boat parades and it would be like, I love Jesus and Trump's my president. Like he would do shirts like that. Like this is the guy they want to have implement the Doge agenda in Wisconsin. Again, just a reminder, the election is Tuesday. It's April 1st. And in Wisconsin and in Florida, these are key races right there. Let me give some legal news as well, some updates in the various court cases. Earlier today, a federal judge barred the Trump regime from ending temporary protected status for 350,000 Venezuelan nationals, which was slated to expire next week. This order by Judge Chen said the decision by the Trump regime appeared to be rooted in racial discrimination against Venezuelans by Noam and Trump, saying that they basically intentionally distorted data to label the massive group of Venezuelan TPS holders to be linked to crime. Now, it's worth mentioning as well that the Venezuelan community, especially in southern Florida, big Trump community. These are family members of Trump voters, Cubans for Trump, Venezuelans for Trump. So what does he do? He turns around with Kristi Noem and his MAGA regime, and he labels all Venezuelans basically Tren de Aragua. Like that's the pretext to do all of this. All gang members, everybody's a criminal. You know, and again, we've been reporting on these stories. Mother Jones has been doing a great job reporting on these stories. Time Magazine has done a great job reporting on these stories. I mean, you've got this guy who we've talked about before, Andre, a gay makeup artist sent to rot in a prison in El Salvador. They call him Tren de Aragua because he has a tattoo that said mom and dad on his arms. We talked about an individual who had an autism awareness tattoo sent to rot in the El Salvador prison system there. You had someone with the Real Madrid tattoo. They were labeled Tren de Aragua. In connection with the lawsuits that have been filed in this area of this ghoulish program, kidnapping program by the Trump regime, the ACLU filed documents which basically said, here's how ICE is determining it. If you have a tattoo and there's certain streetwear, like a color of the clothes, those things make you gang members in their mind, and you don't get due process. You don't get to say, hey, by the way, can I try to prove it to you? Nope. You go to concentration camps in El Salvador. So you have this one case right here that involves the federal judge barring for now the Trump regime from ending the temporary protected status, because once that's ended, right, then you go to the next step, which is the sending these people either back to Venezuela, where they're political exiles and they'd potentially get tortured or killed from the Maduro regime, where they fled to then become lawfully here into the United States, or they get sent to El Salvador. Then there's the other case that the ACLU filed against the Trump regime. That's before Judge Boasberg, where Boasberg, through at least mid-April, blocked the Trump regime from sending or kidnapping migrants and sending them to El Salvador without providing due process. Judge Boasberg earlier today set a Thursday hearing on his efforts to determine whether the Justice Department violated his orders restraining the removals under the Alien Enemies Act. And then we learned in the past 24 hours that the Trump regime sent more people to El Salvador, and they said they're doing it not under the Alien Enemies Act, but under something else that they don't want to even talk about what it is. And again, I want to be very clear. I don't want gang members on the street. Nobody wants that. We have a system for putting gang members in prisons and deporting them. That already exists. Call me old-fashioned, but I believe in due process, because I don't want to hear or see or learn about people being kidnapped in the United States and then being sent to concentration camps in El Salvador, concentration camps anywhere, or being sent to any place without having an ability to show or share who it is that they are. That's the system that we have. And as the old adage goes, right, first they came for this group and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a part of this group. Then they came for this group. I didn't speak up because I wasn't part of this group. Then they came for this group and I didn't speak up. And then they came for me and there was nobody left speaking up for me. That's the lesson of history. And that's why right now it is important that we all, I think, basically commit that we are a nation of laws. Due process is a thing. Due process is a thing. And we're going to keep highlighting these stories here on the MeidasTouch Network. And then, Brett, you broke the story about when Kristi Noem wearing the $60,000 Rolex watch, one of the El Salvador prison, which, by the way, is also a violation of the Geneva Convention to parade yourself.
It's gross.
And use people as props is a Geneva Convention violation as well. It is horrific to see. And by the way, why lots of countries are also not traveling. They're having people travel to the United States and they're issuing tourism warnings. They're telling their people, if you go to the United States, you may end up in ICE detention or in concentration camps. If you go to the United States, they're telling their people the U.S. is a dangerous, dangerous place under the Trump regime and that it can't be trusted. This is a natural consequences of Trump's horrific, horrific policies, and it's shameful.
And one of the things that they're always going to try to do, and they're going to continue this throughout this entire administration, is they want to try to put you in this hard to answer question or this situation that they think is a hard thing to answer, right? Like with Doge, for example, their whole thing is, oh, so you don't want the government to be efficient. Oh, so you like waste and abuse and fraud. They always try to frame it in a way to try to get your back against the wall because they want to be able to do the indefensible and have zero resistance to that. I say, fuck that. Don't let them do that, because they're going to do that for everything. So I've heard so many sort of political strategists and stuff say, oh, this isn't the fight that you want to take. You don't want to rail against Doge because the people are going to think you're against government efficiency, or you don't want to rail against what Donald Trump's doing with the Alien Enemies Act because they're going to think you support gang members in the country and unfettered immigration, and that you want gang members to be in people's towns and cities and violent murderers. I just don't accept that framing whatsoever. I think it is imperative that we all speak out over these issues and acknowledge, yes, no, we don't want gang members here. Yes, of course, we want the government to be efficient, but we don't believe that you should be allowed to kidnap a human being because they have a tattoo that says mom on their wrist and send them to an El Salvadoran prison without due process. That is not okay. This is a human rights issue. This is the kind of stuff that some of the most vile dictators have done in history. And I will not stand by silent because people think it might be politically expedient to, and say nothing when we are witnessing these horrors of this administration. And I think this message is getting through to people. I mean, you even saw today, it reached, maybe he was just intimidated by our podcast numbers, but even saw Joe Rogan go, oh, this is kind of screwed up. Rogan was like, yeah, no, it's actually, this isn't cool that they're just rounding up random people, that they sent this barber to El Salvador and torture prison camp because he had a tattoo. Like, that's not cool. When you hear a guy like that saying that, you're kind of like, okay, this is kind of breaking through a little bit because it's so obvious. That's the thing to me too. These things to me are so clear. It is truth versus lies. It is morality versus immorality. And we need to stand on the side of the truth. We need to stand on the side of morals. We need to stand on the side of the law and point out how these people are breaking the law every single day, how they are violating every single principle that this nation is supposed to be about. And we need to call them out for being un-American and inhumane every single day, and do it unapologetically. Stop worrying about, oh, well, then they're going to try to say that you're into this, that you're into that. No, I'm sorry. Lead with your values. Speak up for people and show some conviction. Speaking of conviction, I don't want to end this episode without giving a shout out to Cory Booker right now, who is giving delivering an old-fashioned filibuster right now on the Senate floor. He said he's going to speak until he physically cannot anymore to protest the Trump and Musk regime. So we haven't been able to tune into him because we've been doing the show live, but just wanted to give him a shout out for doing something and speaking truth to power on the Senate floor. It's so important right now. Do not back down.
Finally, I just want to say, I don't think the people want Democrats to look more MAGA. I'd be very clear about that. They want them to be fighters and fight MAGA harder and put it all out on the line, because people are suffering. People are feeling pain. And it is so important that we understand what people are actually going through. It's important that we listen to what the people are experiencing. And whether they're a Democrat, Republican, or independent, pain and suffering doesn't have a political party. Pain and suffering is something that we all, as Americans, as citizens of this world, should want to try to minimize, mitigate, and eliminate, just trying to be good people. With this Trump and MAGA movement, they want to inflict pain. They relish in the pain that they're causing and the suffering that they are doing. Should not be more like them. Should be as far from them. We should never sacrifice our empathy, our joy, our hope. But don't confuse those things for weakness, because we can fight like our life depends on it, because it does. And for the people out there who are experiencing this pain and suffering, which is most Americans, unless you're a billionaire, they want fighters right now. We commit to you that at the MeidasTouch Network, we will fight every day, every minute, every second. And we welcome fighters here in the MeidasTouch Network. Thank you, Meidas Mighty. We appreciate you so much. Thank you to our mods. Thank you to everybody. Hit subscribe. Help us get to 5 million subscribers. We appreciate you. Thanks for everybody who got those elbows up emojis also.
Let's go. Shout out to the Midas Mighty. Can't get enough Midas? Check out the Midas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.